Let's dive into some Solana news, also breaking down some things that are happening with both Meta and Apple and how this plays into the crypto ecosystem. You guys are going to love it. There's a lot of Easter eggs in this one, so stay tuned. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into TechPath. Let's get going today. And one of the things I do want to do is kind of take a step back and kind of explain a little bit about self-custody. Most of the time you put your tokens in an exchange because you bought them there, and that's kind of your journey so far. The really big next step is for you to take those tokens off an exchange, keep your keys, all that. Well, the process can start very simply by going and getting a wallet, a physical wallet that you can engage, and Tangem is the one we like. All you have to do is go to tangem.com, click that Get Tangem, go over and get the 3-card set. That's going to give you a backup, an extra backup, and they're very slick and easy to use. So just use that, and very inexpensive. So use our code. It does give you some additional discounts to get started. All right, so let's go over here into Solana. And as we've all experienced, Solana congestion, terrible over the last month. That apparently is now changing. So Solana's congestion issues have been completely resolved with the block production back to normal. Transactions all confirming under 2 seconds. I can attest to this. I've done some trades here recently, whether it's within the Phantom wallet, pretty much back on track to where it has been. One of the things that you should be aware of is that Solana's update is still going to be coming. So that's still happening in late May. And what that simply means is we're probably going to get even more completeness, I think, in the sense of having less and less congestion, or at least security against any of that kind of thing in terms of a slowdown. So that's good news from that side of the aisle. Another, of course, if you guys have not been watching, we are at the top of the leaderboard for the Saga, and that is the Chapter 2 version of the Solana phone. And this is something that as we start to transition into so much Web3 activity, airdrops, as well as, I think, brands starting to move into this. Of course, this is going to be one of the big ones, so check it out. You guys might still be able to jump in on that. All right, so on a Saga now, you've got a ton of these airdrops coming in. This newest airdrop, MANEKI, of course, now pumping over $85, so that adds to the token value in a lot of these airdrops. So you've got quite a few already assessing value, in most cases well over $500, because in some of these they've already been and reached those kind of highs. And right now we've seen a little bit of depressed value in terms of that. In addition to this, you've got Bloomverse dropping an NFT into this for Saga Genesis token holders. So Chapter 2, you guys are going to get an NFT as well. Sell it, keep it, do what you like. But the point is you're continuing to gain both tokens, airdrops, NFT airdrops, all this additional value kind of coming into it. Now I want to go over to a clip here from Yatsu that kind of explains a little bit more about kind of the benefits, but also the impact of airdrops. Listen in.
What would have happened if Apple decided to take 10% of the annual profits and invest back in the ecosystem? What would the Apple ecosystem look like? Very different. I also think companies would love Apple a lot more. I also think the ecosystem would be healthier. I think indie developers wouldn't struggle the way that they are. I mean, governments have SME funding grants. I mean, that's what banks were supposed to do, but then they got too conservative. They're not doing this because of profit. They're doing this to advance their economy. They're doing this to grow their ecosystem because they know that the SME industry is the lifeblood of their economies, because everyone else gets to grow and it promotes stability because there's hope and there's opportunity, and then it grows the ecosystem, and then the restaurants can open and all that kind of stuff, right? That's what you got to do. So you have to give back to the economy. Now, if Apple was only going to charge 5%, it's maybe different. Maybe then there's more money in the ecosystem in itself that might reinvest in it. But if you take a 30% tax, which is a higher tax rate than the base tax of the US, right? And certainly twice the tax rate of Hong Kong. I mean, we get Social Security, we get police, we get whatever, right? What are these platforms giving us?
Censorship in their store.
Exactly, and control.
The ability to reinvest back into that community, the ecosystem grows. That's why you're seeing a lot of these airdrops, and also assessments of how some of these ecosystems are rewarding those who participate in it. And that's the problem that, of course, Apple represents, I think, as a whole. I want to go to another clip here. This gets into what some of the challenge that Apple, and you'll get to understand why this all pertains to crypto and the potential of Web3, blockchain as a whole. But this clip goes into a little deeper of where the potential growth of Apple might happen. Listen in.
And we're going to start right there. Why do you think Apple's dead money, or why do you think, I should say, it continues to be dead money?
Number one, they're significantly overweight to China. About 20% of their revenue comes from China. Their supply chain is still heavily dependent on China. They first released the iPhone in 2007, so we're 17 years in the product cycle. So I think those factors really could contribute to potentially a period of Apple being dead money for a prolonged period of time.
Okay.
If you guys will remember, the numbers coming in from China in terms of sales, considerably down on the iPhone. This, of course, also starts to generate a lot of pressure on Apple to continue to expand or try to figure a way to fix this problem. Here's Tim Cook talking about his strategy. Listen in.
It's so great to see you. I'm getting a feel of the culture.
We talked about the president's desire to see manufacturing in the country, and it's something that we will look at. I think that there's a lot of great places to invest, and we're investing. We believe in the country.
So investing in Indonesia, but not America, this is continuing to be a problem. We all know what that means. They're going after low-cost labor. You think about that, and then you look at the opportunity here of all sorts of different features that typically reside right now on a lot of these OSs. SolChat is a good example. This is an example of one of the ways that we're going to see more and more potential growth on whether it's messaging apps and other things going and moving to the blockchain. SolChat might be one to kind of keep an eye on. That's one of the things. If you go back and look at the Saga, what it's been able to do here recently in terms of just the growth, what we've seen. Remember, the Solana Saga phone, I think it was totally said like 25,000, and they were able to surpass that in boatloads. So the opportunity is real, and there is some very interesting components, but I think messaging will be one of them. This is a clip talking about SolChat a little bit deeper. Listen in.
Let me call my buddy on my Saga over Solana.
Yo.
Bro,
Yeah,
I'm calling you over my Saga right now.
your Solana phone.
On the Helium network,
Solana,
bro. On the fucking
on the
Helium network.
You know how much this shit would cost on fucking ETH? This phone call?
Oh no, because it wouldn't ever exist.
Okay, well, that's a little bit out there. But the point is, technology is moving now, guys. We're starting to see some pretty interesting use cases. And of course, part of this in terms of evolution, I think will start with a lot of this shift in the demographics, which is mostly Gen Z going forward. This is also taking a look at Apple's challenges around what's happening right now in the AI ecosystem in terms of innovation. Listen into this clip.
There's a difference between fundamentals and stock prices. Apple's fundamentals haven't been great for the last 3 years. The revenues that they guided for the March quarter is exactly the same as 3 years ago. The stock's gone up on a lot of multiple expansion. You have buybacks, you have dividends, and all this other stuff. But at a certain point, you've got to make the numbers. And Apple is behind in AI, which is why you keep hearing about them maybe partnering with Google or someone else. Maybe that'll happen in front of Worldwide Developers Conference in June, where everybody gets hyped up about AI phones, and then you figure out, oh, it's just table stakes, just like everybody else has AI-enabled smartphones at the high end already. And so at a mid-20s PE, I don't know why you would pick that name over a myriad of other names in tech that are growing revenues, earnings, and that don't have the same competitive issues as an Apple does. At this valuation with no growth, I don't know why you would be bullish on Apple.
So again, this earnings coming up here in May, Apple scrambling, trying to align not only with what's going on in AI, but also they're trying to align with what is happening over in the Meta camp. And Meta has really started to throw the hammer down. I think that's the big deal. I think Meta is the new Apple in terms of innovation. This is Zuckerberg talking about how Meta Horizon OS is now an absolutely open OS. Listen in.
All right, some updates on the metaverse today. Now, in every era of computing, there are always open and closed models. And with phones, Apple's closed model basically won out. Phones are tightly controlled, and you're kind of locked into what they'll let you do. But it doesn't have to be that way. In the PC era, the open model won out. You can do a lot more things, install mods, we've got more diversity of hardware, software, and more. So our goal is to make it so that the open model defines the next generation of computing, again, with the metaverse, glasses, and headsets. So that's why we're releasing our operating system so that more companies can build different things on it. The key ideas behind Meta Horizon OS are a feeling of presence with people no matter where you physically are, bringing digital objects like huge screens into your physical space, and supporting developers and creators and building all these new apps and experiences. You can do all this on Quest today, but now we're also working with Lenovo, Asus ROG, Xbox, and more to build headsets that are going to be designed for specific use cases. So you can imagine a lightweight headset that pairs with your computer on your desk, or you can imagine one that's fully focused on watching immersive entertainment like movies and videos with the highest resolution OLED screens. You can imagine one that's designed for exercise, that's extra light with sweat-wicking materials. Or maybe just a version that comes out of the box with Xbox controllers and a Game Pass so that you can immediately just start playing on a big screen anywhere you go.
So this is big news, and it also starts to displace Apple as the innovator out of Silicon Valley. And I think now Meta would have to be considered as the number one company, maybe even over Google, especially when you integrate the hardware, the operating system, and now the opportunity of an ecosystem, platforms, marketplaces, etc. I want to go to this next clip because this is where Apple starts to panic just a little bit in terms of this response. Listen in.
Some breaking news on Apple this morning. Hey, Steve.
Hey there, Carl. Yeah, May 7th, there's going to be an Apple event. This is going to be a virtual event streamed on Apple.com, probably YouTube as well. And we're expecting this one to be new iPads. And this is important, Carl, because last year, all of 2023 was the first year that, at least I can remember, Apple didn't put out a new model of iPad. But look, today we got that headline out of China saying sales of iPhones in that country were down about 19%. That is what everyone's really focusing on more than the iPad business. It's can the iPhone business turn around, especially in China, Carl?
All right, I don't think so. I think the writing is on the wall now for Apple, and unfortunately, we're in a bit of a death march. One thing that will probably lead the way on this is going to be marketplaces. And the likelihood of the future, NFT marketplaces will be a big part of that. Zuckerberg had an interesting take on this. Listen in.
We're also, as part of this, going to be opening up our store to give you even more options to use whatever experiences you want. So whether they're on Steam, Xbox, cloud gaming, our own App Lab, or even Google Play, if they're up for it, our philosophy is that we want you to be able to run the content on Quest or any Meta Horizon operating system headset. So opening our OS, that's the next step in bringing all these different use cases of the metaverse to everyone. It's probably going to take a couple of years for some of these new products to start launching, but I'm really excited to get started on this next chapter.
This is a pretty big step in the right direction, I think, for Meta. And also, I think it changes the whole dynamic of how operating systems might be perceived in the future. Because remember, Apple has been a very closed ecosystem, very controlling, hence that we've seen all the regulation issues that Apple's faced. And then now what we're seeing is a stifling of now their own sales, probably because of these kinds of business practices that they've had. If you go to this article right here, it just kind of shows a couple of points here, shifting their model from two independent services, Store and App Lab, to a single unified open storefront. So we're going to see this really, I think, explode. New titles now submitted will go directly to the store, and App Lab will no longer be a separate distribution channel. And if you guys know, App Lab is the SideQuest component. This is something where there's a whole ecosystem of, games, etc., that now are going to have a channel to go directly into that store. And that is a huge deal because we're going to continue to see more developers, game devs, etc., and I think NFT projects going out there as well. So this is an example of actually an NFT game that's residing on SideQuest that will immediately be available over on the main app store. So this is going to be a huge jump. And if you look at just the size of this audience already, 500,000 views, and this is, again, on kind of a secondary marketplace that not a lot of people know about except for MetaQuest users, 167,000 clicks. That's a good example of what we're going to start to see in terms of innovation channels coming much more open. Also, to take a look at this is SOMO. This one, of course, is community sale going live. This is a new token out there. Again, another opportunity that could start to make its way. And remember PalWorld, not too long ago, one of the fastest growing viral game hits out there. This may be the one to watch. I've got a clip of SOMO that'll break this down a little bit better for you. Take a look.
Here, the SOMO, creatures with the ability to manipulate the elements of the universe, battle for sport. But where there is power, there are always those who seek to harness and control it. And so, the SOMO were hunted. In the midst of the fight, their forces combined, creating a rift in time and space that reverberated across the galaxies. And the SOMO, transported to another dimension, the SOMO will need to seek help from the most unlikely of companions.
All right, so that game on Layer 0, which has not released games yet. So these tokens are going to be hot. So be on the lookout for some of those. So this is another piece that you guys need to pay attention to. And this gets into the whole idea around Web3 phones. iPhone currently not compatible with the digital euro. This is part of the secure element chip that is in all these phone devices. And if you are going to trust someone, would it be Solana phone or would it be an Apple phone? This is a problem that I think we're going to continue to see. Jamie Dimon had some interesting things to say about this. Let me jump to that clip.
Bill Gates once said, banking is necessary, banks are not. To what extent could AI or fintech replace traditional banks?
So I think, first of all, I remember him saying banks are dinosaurs. I spoke to him about it in 1997, and he was dead wrong. He'd probably agree to that. But he's not wrong. The technology changes everything. And if anyone is complacent or arrogant or think that because you have a big position today, you can have a big position tomorrow, that's a mistake. But I've always thought it's very possible that some tech thing, disintermediates a piece of that. And I've been writing about, big tech going to our business. We got fintech, but we also have big tech. And they will embed payment systems in there. And some are going to white label banks, kind of what Apple did. They have the right to do that. I'm not against that. I would be against unfair use of their position to dominate us in a business.
Well, Apple is going deeper into financial services.
No
Do you
question.
worry about the Bank of Apple?
Well, we're going to compete. So they have a tough competitor, but they hold money, move money. Yeah, they're a form of a competitor. We also partner with them, but I'm very used to partnering and competing with lots of people.
Existential threat?
I don't think it's an existential threat, but I think if we were complacent about it, yes.
So to your point, mobile banking, I think just in general, what we'll know as neobanks in the future are just that. And of course, one of the things that is going to bridge, I think, the gap on all of this is just the security element and also privacy concerns. Biden, of course, signed in an extension of the controversial spying program into 2026 now. So this is continued. This has happened with almost every president since we've seen this. So let's talk a little bit about government and privacy. This is Lummis weighing in.
You support a proposal to require banks and credit unions to report customer data to the Internal Revenue Service for transactions of $600 or more. There are obvious privacy concerns for all Americans here, and this represents a dramatic new regulatory burden for community banks and credit unions in Wyoming and elsewhere. Our banks will have to hire contractors to rat on their customers in order to collect data for the government. Wyoming's people literally will find alternatives to traditional banks just to thwart IRS access to their personal information, not because they're trying to hide anything, but because they're not willing to share everything. Do you distrust the American people so much that you need to know when they bought a couch? I am astounded by what you're supporting and proposing. I think it's invasive.
Senator Lummis, I really disagree with the assessment that you have. Banks already report directly to the IRS when it exceeds $10. It is a proposal to add 2 additional pieces of easily ascertained information. And I think it's important to recognize that we have a tax gap that's estimated at $7 trillion over the next decade. That is taxes that are due and are not being paid to the government. And
well,
this additional information would help.
$600 threshold is not usually where you're going to find the massive amount of tax revenue you think Americans are cheating you out of.
That's correct, but it's important to have comprehensive information so that individuals can't game the system.
Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
So it's clear that the U.S. government does not trust the American people, and I think it might be quid pro quo there. I think we do not trust the government as well. So with that being the case, you're going to continue to see more privacy weigh in on this, and I think one of the areas, of course, is still going to be in things like email, all sorts of banking that is going to move to DeFi, the likelihood of what we'll see in blockchain and Web3, kind of renovate what. And maybe that's why the government overall is so scared of blockchain. Maybe that is really the core of this, much less the issue of the banking cycle side of things. SoulMail is a good example. Blockchain integrate now directly with Gmail to send notifications. This is bridging a gap between Web3 and Web2 on Solana. So this will be another way if you are eventually going to try to get off a traditional Web2 mail. Is there a solution out there? Well, SoulMail may be one of those. If you look at what's happening on the charts here, here's SolChat. We talked about a little bit earlier. You can kind of see just the overall here of what the capacity is here. This one most likely is going to see some activity. There's SoulMail, also out on the max in terms of price, just to see, what is the value of that. I think all of this pertaining to mobile devices, the evolution of technology, and what we'll see kind of going forward, especially from a privacy standpoint, all of this is going to get very intriguing in the next few years. I want to end up here with this last clip. It's kind of fun, listen in.
Would you rather have one soul or $1,000?
What's a what? One soul? I would rather have a soul, I think.
One soul or $1,000?
One soul.
One soul.
Shit, what's a soul worth? What's a soul? That's a crypto. That's a crypto,
coin,
isn't it?
right?
It's a Solana.
$1,000.
Right? $1,000.
I'd probably take $1,000. Yeah.
$1,000. Okay.
Probably 1,000.
Okay.
I'll take the coin.
That's my guy right here.
One soul, bro.
One soul.
So they're all saying they'd rather have one soul than $1,000, and you think that it's not a fucking obvious buy at 135, bro? You're out of your mind, okay? Solana's going to at least 1,250, 1,500.
All right, I don't know where Solana's going, but VanEck seems to think they've got a base case, and a bear case, and a bull case. 334 on the bear case, or the base case right there. 981 on the bear case, and what is that? $3,200 on a bull case. What is VanEck doing over there? These guys are definitely on a party boat for sure. I don't know. Maybe you guys think that Solana is going to take those kind of moves. I think this video kind of showcases if there is a blockchain out there that's going to make its way into the next generation of tech. Is it Solana, or is there another one out there? Let me know in the comments down below. And of course, if you're not in the Diamond Circle, make sure and get in right now. It's a great place to get additional content. Catch me out there on X at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.